Welcome to the Brisbane Club's Grand Wine Tour. My name is Laura Gray and I am a member of the Wine Committee, and here with me I have Joao Beleza, our cellar master, and Andrew Corrigan, our resident master of wine. They're going to be talking through the various different regions across the world. First of all, we're going to be talking about Burgundy and Pinot Noir. Then we're going to be going into Bordeaux, followed by Shiraz, and then Italian varieties.
Good afternoon. So this afternoon we're talking about, like Laura was saying, Pinot from Australia and Burgundy from France. I believe these wines are very excellent to drink because they nice and light, and also for our climate, I think it suits very well our climate here in Queensland. What do you think?
I do. I think Pinot Noir is a red wine that can be chilled really easily. It's good when the weather's warm. It's good when the weather's cold too, but when the weather's warm,
That's right.
It certainly lends itself to being chilled a little bit. And the great thing about Pinot Noir is, whilst it's soft, it's got this lovely velvet, fleshy feel, and that's what makes it so desirable. And there's something about Pinot Noir with that fleshiness that makes the wine so popular.
I agree. That's why we did a little contrast here. We put two Burgundies, Grand Cru, and also we put a by far so everyone can see the difference. By far, it can be a bit more heavier, but beautiful wine to drink in Australia. And we do have the Burgundy is nice and soft, more elegant, I believe, and a beautiful color, different color than the other two.
They're certainly a paler colour, aren't they?
Yeah, and
So-
you can see on the glasses here, Mr. Corrigan has got a beautiful glass, myself and Laura also, and they tasting. Cheers.
Cheers, that's right. There's the first wine. So that's the by far, and that is from Geelong, outside Melbourne. And like all of the Australian Pinot Noirs, and for that matter New Zealand Pinot Noirs too, much more forward and fruity, and a much more dark liqueur cherry style. Whereas when you move along to the first of the Burgundies, which is the Gevrey-Chambertin, it is more savoury. There's more acidity. It's a bit more tart. It's probably more powerful in its taste, and not as juicy and soft as the by far. But that's always the difference that you see between say in Australia or New Zealand Pinot Noir going to Burgundy. The Burgundy wines got great intensity, but they also have this length and this acidity and this savoury character that you so often see.
I agree. And the next one is the Crouton. So it's the Grand Cru. I believe probably is best of the best to drink. And Mr. Corrigan is going to show you the label there.
The interesting thing about Pinot Noir is it's a small batch type of winemaking all over the world, and hardly any large companies do Pinot Noir. It's very much the type of wine that's made by small hands-on producers. That's very much the case in California and New Zealand and Australia. In Burgundy, it's also the case, and they're usually family holdings. And over the many years in Burgundy, the small vineyards have become defined really well into a hierarchy. And I've got here the famous Hugh Johnson, Jancis Robinson catalogue, which I'm just going to hold up quickly. But you can see they've coloured up all the individual vineyards there. And that system hasn't really changed much for many, many years. And so there's this hierarchy where you can go from a wine made generally in different vineyards across Burgundy, or then you move up to a wine made from a particular village. And so the first of our Burgundies today is from Gevrey-Chambertin, which is a particular village. Then you can move to the next rung of the ladder, which is a Premier Cru, and then you can go to the absolute top of the range, the last highest rung on the ladder, which is where you go to individual vineyards that have got a Grand Cru rating. And those wines are made in small quantities, and they're hard to find, and they epitomise the greatest in Burgundy. They're normally quite expensive as well.
And they're amazing to drink anyway. Yeah. And I think also Pinot is probably one of the hardest wines to make.
It's so volatile, isn't it? It's quite
very difficult.
fragile.
If you because Pinot Noir inherently has quite thin skin, if you make Pinot Noir as same as if you're making a Shiraz or a Cabernet Sauvignon or some more well-known full-bodied red variety, you'd wind up with a rosé. And over the centuries, the Burgundian winemakers developed their techniques, which have now been adopted by all the New World producers as well. And you have to coax the flavour out of the thin skin. And so there's all sorts of techniques that they employ, such as soaking in the grapes before the fermentation, and then fermenting with the natural yeasts that come in from the vineyard, and then finishing fermentation in barrels, and a range of other techniques. So all these things require a lot of care and attention and hands-on. Quite tricky to make a great Pinot Noir, but when you get a good one, they're lovely.
Yeah, I think Pinot is one of the most hardest wines to make, it also mellow as well. So
yeah, so interesting. Look on the Pinot Noir for the cherry, savoury, mid-palate, silky fleshiness. Then after you've swallowed a mouthful, even though it's a lighter bodied wine than many reds that you'll find, look for how long the wine lingers on to taste, and that's a great sign, the so-called persistence test. And you can sort of rank the quality of wines by doing that. I think you'll find the Grand Cru wine here, you can taste it for some minutes after you take a mouthful, and that's a very desirable thing.
Well done. Cheers.
Cheers.
Enjoy.